Good morning. I have chosen to focus my Renaissance project on Galileo Galilei, an Italian natural philosopher, astronomer, and mathematician known as the father of modern science, who made fundamental contributions to the sciences of motion, astronomy, and to the development of the scientific method. Galileo invented an improved telescope that let him observe and describe the moons of Jupiter, the rings of Saturn, and the phases of Venus, sunspots, and the rugged lunar surface. He revolutionized science by supporting a heliocentric, sun-centered universe, which, contradicted the Aristotelian view of the universe, then widely accepted both by scientists and theologians. The moon's rugged surface went against the idea of heavenly perfection, and the orbits of the Medicean stars violated the geocentric notion that the heavens revolved around Earth, which resulted in his house arrest by the Catholic Church. I specifically chose Galileo because I love science, space, and Christianity. Galileo was a devout Catholic who embraced many scientific things, especially the study of the skies with a telescope. Galileo was born in Pisa, Tuscany, on February 15, 1564, the oldest son of Vincenzo Galli, and a court musician, a composer who made important contributions to the theory and practice of music. Early in his life, Galileo showed an aptitude in several artistic areas in addition to his academic strength. He learned all about music from his father, and these lessons inspired Galileo's lifelong passion for several instruments, particularly the lute, which he supposedly mastered as a boy. Galileo also cultivated talent as an artist during his childhood and seriously considered a career as a painter. He was the total Renaissance man in all that the word implies: brilliant, witty, articulate, incisive, charming. Not only a scientist and a mathematician, he was an accomplished musician on both lute and organ. His skills in communication were particularly outstanding. He could write clearly in Latin, and he could even write more clearly in Italian. Some say he wrote the best Italian prose of his time. The family moved to Florence in the early 1570s, where the Galilei family had lived for generations. In his teens, Galileo attended the University of Pisa, where he was to study medicine. However, he found mathematics to be his true calling and decided to make the mathematical subjects and philosophy his profession. In 1585, Galileo left the university without earning a degree. For several years, he gave private lessons in the mathematical subjects in Florence, Siena. He began his studies on the motion, which he pursued steadily for the next 2 decades. Despite not having a college degree, Galileo obtained the chair of mathematics at the University of Pisa in 1589. There, Galileo demonstrated that by dropping items of different weights from the top of the famous Leaning Tower of Pisa, that the speed and fall of a heavy object is not proportional to its weight, as Aristotle had claimed. Galileo's attack on Aristotle made him unpopular with his colleagues, and his contract was not renewed. However, Galileo's primary patrons were the Medici family of Tuscany, specifically Grand Dukes Cosimo II and Ferdinando de' Medici II. They provided Galileo with financial support, political protection, and the title of the court mathematician. The Medici family secured him the chair of mathematics at the University of Padua. Key scientific complementaries of Galileo included German astronomer Johannes Kepler, French philosopher and mathematician René Descartes, and French philosopher and scientist Pierre Gassendi, and English philosopher and statesman Francis Bacon. Galileo's primary rivals were not just church authorities, but contemporary astronomers and philosophers, defending the historian Ptolemaic geocentric model. Key academic opponents included Jesuit astronomer Christopher Schneider, sunspot theory, Lodovico del Columbio, Pigeon League, and the university professors like Cesare Cremoni, who rejected telescopic evidence. Galileo was a brilliant but deeply flawed individual, characterized by extreme arrogance, stubbornness, and contentious nature that antagonized allies in the church. He was known for being self-centered, moody, and prone to breaking promises. Furthermore, he was dishonest in his arguments, intellectually honest in his science, and quick to take credit for other people's work. Galileo had 3 children, Mariana Gamba, and with Mariana Gamba, whom he never married, 2 daughters, Virginia, later sister Maria Celeste, and Lavina Galli, and a son, Vincenzo Gamba. Despite his own latter troubles with the Catholic Church, both of Galileo's daughters became nuns in Covenant near Florence. In 1616, the Catholic Church placed Nicholas Copernicus' De Revolutionibus, the first modern scientific argument for heliocentric sun-centered universe, on its index of banned books. Pope Paul V summoned Galileo to Rome and told him he could no longer support Copernicus publicly. In 1632, Galileo published his dialogue concerning the 2 chief word systems, which supposedly presented arguments for both sides of the heliocentrism debate. His attempt at balance fooled no one, and especially didn't help that his advocate for geocentrism was named Simplicius. Galileo was summoned before the Roman Inquisition in 1633. At first, he denied that he had advocated heliocentrism, but later he said he had only done it unintentionally. Galileo was convicted of vehement suspicion of heresy, and under threat of torture, forced to express sorrow and curse his errors. Nearly 70 at the time of this trial, Galileo lived his last 9 years under comfortable house arrest, writing a summary of his early motion experiments that became his final great scientific work. He died in Anceri near Florence, Italy, on January 8, 1642, at age 77, after suffering from heart palpitations and a fever. In his conflict with the Church, Galileo was largely vindicated. Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire and tales of his trial, often simplified in exaggerated form, portrayed Galileo as a martyr for objectively recent scholarship suggestions. Galileo actual trial and punishment were as much of matter as courtly intrigue and philosophical ministry as an inherent tension between religion and science. In 1744, Galileo's dialogue was removed from the Church's list of banned books, and in the 20th century, Popes Pius the 8th, 12th, and Paul II made official statements of regret for how the church had treated Galileo.